anyone has any questions, I'm happy to open up the questions. Thank you very much for participating, and you should have a good Yom Tov. Just unmuting anyone who wants to raise their hand and say anything or ask anything. Okay, I think everyone's unmuted. Okay, Moshe, go ahead, please.
Oh,
Go ahead.
it's Mrs. Nuna with a question. Shalom and a good morning.
I'm going to this.
Well, not in mute. One on mute. The question is, so I heard the whole shiur, which I felt very inspired by. But my question is, what do we do with the Christians that have polytheism as part of their belief system, but they don't even realize it?
So that's a great question, and we addressed some of that last week in the introduction, and I'm happy to continue with that conversation because that's something that's really very, very important. First of all, we have to recognize that there's, in the Rebbe's view of what does it look like a non-Jew who's serving Hashem, there's no room for Christian ideology, because Christian ideology has a number of challenges. I'm just going to say, I want to share those here for a full understanding of the answer, what I think the answer to the question is. First of all, Christianity believes, one problem is that it believes in a multifaceted God, which includes a human form.
On the telephone?
Number two is Christianity believes in an independent force of evil. And that applies even for the the Christian denominations that have a less idolatrous form of service. And the third thing is the Christianity believes something that fundamentally contradicts what has been taught since the beginning of creation. Because you have to understand something. Torah is not something that just suddenly appeared out of the middle of nowhere on Har Sinai. It says that the Levim already were learning Torah in Mitzrayim, in Goshen, and that they even had Sforim. There were different types of Sforim. There were different. We say that Sefer Yitzir was written by Avram Avinu. There was Torah that was being learned and being followed from the times well before Avram Avinu, actually from the times of Adam Rishon. So Torah was constantly being transmitted, and part of the Torah is that the receipt of the Torah by humankind from the times of Avram and then Adam and his offspring that some followed, some didn't follow, but there was awareness in Noach and then his sons that started a yeshiva. This was being taught. Our forefathers did not get what they knew out of thin air. Avram got the recognition of Hashem, but Yaakov went to the yeshiva of Shem Ba'ever. He sat in the yeshiva that was being taught by the sons of Noach. So there was a covenant, a precious covenant that was made between God and all of his creatures, all of mankind, from the very beginning of time. That was given to Adam. That was given to Noach. Not when I say given, it was reiterated. And then there was on Har Sinai, there was the godly revelation to the nations of the world through the giving of the Torah and the commandments that applied to them through Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. That was the godly revelation to all of humanity. So this covenant is something that has existed since the beginning of time. And Christianity comes along and says that since the Jews didn't keep, God forbid, the covenant with God, they have the confusion. They say that the Jews had a sort of an exclusive covenant with God, and when the Jews didn't keep that covenant, then God abrogated, God forbid, the covenant with the Jews, and he extended it to all of mankind through Jesus. So the whole truth is turned on its head, because God's covenant with all of humanity existed long before his covenant with Abraham and with the Jews. The fundamental covenant with mankind has existed for all time, as it has never been abrogated, has never been changed. There was no need for Jesus to come along and make a covenant with mankind. So we have to understand that on those three examples of where Christianity is not in any way accord with the truth, then it's very important to recognize that those 3 points have to be emphasized to a non-Jewish person. Now, the fact is that in reality, when a human being believes in a God and feels the closest to God, it's not an intellectual experience. It's an emotional experience. And what the Rambam says is that when Mashiach is going to come, all the nations, the Christians, are going to recognize what was taught to them was not true, what was taught by their forefathers, and also the Muslims. But what does a Christian really treasure? A Christian really treasures a belief that there's a Jesus that loves them, takes care of them, forgives them for their sins, is carrying them, looks out for them. And this is what gives a Christian a sense of connection to the divine. So what we need to communicate to the Christian people is that the real love is coming from the real God. It's not an intellectual argument to say why, try to come up with intellectual disproofs. That's not where I focus my energies. The real energy is to say, I understand why you want to believe in this person, because if he can offer you all those things, you're getting something for that by believing in him. But the fact of the matter is, he's not the real God. There's a real God that's far greater than any human being. It can't be limited in a human body. This real God includes all that exists, including what looks to us as negative. And he's had a covenant with you and your forefathers and all of us since the beginning of time, since human beings were created. So it's important that when we come to talk to them, we come to a place of love and understanding, to understand why they believe what they believe, but to really show them that there's a far greater understanding of God. There's a far greater experiencing of God's love for us and God's caring for us, and how God carries us, and how God carries us in the palm of his hands. And God is taking care of us at every time and every moment. And open up a book of Psalms and say with them Psalms about King David's experience of God holding him at every moment in time. King David and our forefathers showed us the way of feeling God's love. And we see that love is really the fundamental principle of the Torah. And on the B'charta B'chaim, the Meforshim say that life is for love. This is what our Torah teaches us. Life is for love. It's not an intellectual experience. We use the divine tool of thought to be able to Hashem has given us a gift to understand it. But it's supposed to be a feeling, a bleidish belev, zutfilah. We're supposed to have a feeling of love. Tanya talks about really the Alter Rebbe wanted from all this Saddam Ava Rabbah. We're supposed to be on this incredible level of love of Hashem. We're supposed to be a feeling we're supposed to be having, walking around all the time in this feeling that Hashem we're totally one with Hashem. So that is what every creature really is meant to feel and recognize. And that's what the non-Jews are meant to recognize. So to go back to your question, which I've been answering this whole time, I hope that's evident, but this is not a long detour. It's necessary to lay these foundational points to get to the answer to your question, which is that the way to deal with them is love and understanding.
Right.
To show them that God's heart is infinitely bigger, and God's love for them is infinitely bigger than anything they've ever imagined, and whatever they've imagined and experienced as an experience of God's love is really, God does love them, but they don't need to get confused by labeling that love with the form of a human being.
Right. And I think I first of all, you did an amazing job explaining what I've always felt, but honestly, I just didn't know how to articulate it. So I just want to say that I do believe that it's important to spend some time developing the information around that, because I think what you said was key, that what we want to get the whole world to feel is what we feel, which is we feel Hashem's total love toward us. And we think that he only loves only the Jewish people, but he loves the whole world. And that's, I think, the key thing we have to think about, knowing how to share. That's all I want to say. I'm going to mute again.
So that's an excellent point, and hopefully, Mitzvah Hashem, from these times we can get together and learn these together. My hopes are a couple things. One is that we will inspire the Jewish people to follow through on this special mission that we have. And that's this particular class is devoted to that. We're going to have spawning many classes, because everyone who's participating is going to be inspired to then start his own classes for the non-Jews. And from this material, be developed exactly this type of materials. I mean, you particularly and your husband are incredible at music. Music is a form both of poetry and of music, or songs are a form of poetry combined with music, and music is the pen of the soul. So what kind of poetry comes to mind from your recognition and your experience of this, and how can you use poetry and together with music to create a song to be able to communicate this to the nations of the world? Your beautiful music that you've written so far, that I've heard, maybe there's more that I haven't heard, is so tremendously inspiring from a Jewish perspective. And I just imagine what it'd be like. I remember you have that song Ad Mosai, and I forgive me if I'm not remembering the exact name of it, but I remember driving by listening to it when we used to play it all the time. We've gone dancing in the in the state parks, my whole family, to the beautiful songs that you have. But that particular song is I was driving by the Meadowlands, which seats 80,000 people, and what became clear in my sight and my vision was the entire Meadowlands filled with 80,000 people dancing to this music and recognizing Hashem. Now, 80,000 people is only 0.1%, or even 0.1% of the world's population. And it says in Masechtas Megillah that all the stadiums of the non-Jews are going to be turned over into places of serving Hashem. So I want to encourage you, each of you, in your tremendous work that you've done and are doing in all these inyanim, but particularly in the music. I think it just has such an incredible opportunity to really communicate the message in the words that Hashem puts in your heart, to be able to communicate this to the world.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. I'm going to take it as a positive challenge to create godly music for the ganze Welt. And you're right. I think it's actually going to be one of the keys that unlocks, the hearts of people, as you said, because music is the pen of the soul, and that will unlock and soften the heart to understanding that Hashem is one, Hashem Echad, really. And there's ways to say that in beautiful music, for sure. So thank you so much. All the best, and please, my best regards to your family. Good night.
Thank you, Rabbi Smith. We switched devices here, so it's Moshe.
Yeah, hi.
Beautiful shiur.
Yeah, well, thank you for participating.
Say hi, Rabbi Smith.
Hi, Rabbi Smith.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Let me turn on your camera so I can see you.
Come, Clara. Will you please mute it?
Oh, I think I got the wrong camera.
Oh, wait. We have tape here.
Some feedback. Oh, there you go. Where the kids are sitting on the steps outside?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I have some. Quítalo, mama. Prendiste el video.
I see your wife. Are these just that's a picture in the background? Okay.
Yeah,
Anyways, yeah, Bosham, any questions you have, anything you want to bring up before we conclude? There's also someone else, Papi. You're still on this. Any Papi, you want to say anything? Madam Tamisha Nunes is muted. Okay. Anyways, everyone have a good night. Thank you very much for participating.